Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel and the Raw review for the 28th of September 2020. Man, I enjoyed the pay per view, the network purview last night, and then they put this on tonight, and ugh. Just when I think there's good things, just when I think things might be getting somewhat better, they put on a show that literally makes me want to cry. So Tom Phillips, Byron Saxton, and Samoa Joe are the announcers for the night. They show Flair, Big Show, Christian, and Michaels coming out. Then they introduce Drew McIntyre, who hugs everybody and basically makes a big deal out of being in the same ring with these legends. He mentioned traveling with them, including Christian and Big Show. He says Michaels gives him great advice, and he remembers being shocked at being able to share a locker room with Ric Flair. They all share the same disdain for Orton. Michaels says they all wanted to thank him for giving them a chance to get revenge on Orton last night at the pay-per-view. Michaels joked that it was all Flair's idea, and to blame him if necessary. Orton appears, says he's going to get revenge, says he doesn't know what it felt like to be McIntyre. And he says he doesn't have to ask for another shot. He'd be given one because of who he is. And Orton wanted to warn everyone that there's a price to pay when you cross him. McIntyre wasn't feeling great after last night, but wants to be a fighting champion. Gives an open option to anyone who has not had a chance since he's had the championship. Then we move on to Kayla Braxton interviewing Zelina Vega. But before we get there, let's just say, can you book a babyface champion to look any weaker? He's out there fanboying for all of his childhood idols after getting beat on by Randy Orton. Number one, the match with Orton should have taken enough out of him that maybe he's off the show tonight, maybe not. If he's on the show, some sort of authority figure should order him to be there. He shouldn't be volunteering. Number two, it was just, they've got I guess for football fans, a relatively big football game, and you open the show this way? Just why? Just why? Anyway, so Braxton interviews Vega, calls her a poor sport. She says she wants to prove herself tonight, and that Asuka's not ready for her, even though last night she was. And Asuka tells her to get ready to lose again. Officials get between them, and then we go to the match. This goes about 8 3/4 minutes. They go to a break about a minute and a half in. And Asuka comes at Vega and goes off on her, kicks her off the apron before the break. Vega is in control after the break. Asuka makes a comeback, targets the arm, goes for submissions, and gets a suplex and some kicks. Vega avoids the Asuka lock and gets a rope break to stay away from it. Vega goes for moonsault. Asuka gets her knees up and applies the Asuka lock for the submission win. Not a bad match, but at the same time, if we just saw it last night, why should we care about it today? Flair show, Christian and Michaels are shown. They're playing cards in the back. Post-break, Andrade's in the ring. As Vega's leaving, he insults her. He says that Vega is nothing without him. Vega is upset. She leaves. Andrade said Vega and Angel Garza were weak links in their team. He called himself the greatest in the WWE and issues a open challenge, and Keith Lee comes in. Keith Lee and Andrade have a, get this, less than 3-minute match. Lee wins decisively, as he could have, weeks ago when they brought him to the main roster. Andrade gets after the lower body, and then hits some running double knees. Lee hits a spirit bomb for a pinfall win. Literally nothing to the match. I mean, if you're going to bring a guy up, I guess giving him wins is good, but shouldn't he, I don't know, have somebody that he can compete with rather than be a squash? MVP and Shelton Benjamin are eating in the back. Random dude joins them, says nothing. Lashley shows up, tells the guy to leave. Guy leaves his food behind. And then MVP is offered the extra plate of food. And in COVID, would you really be eating off anyone else's plate? I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, they replay the foolishness with R-Truth and Tozawa. It just, it's horrible. Ninja appears, hands him a letter written in both Japanese and English. Letters from Tozawa. He left him a gift of a black belt, and Truth appears, and he's honored. He's rolled up from behind by Tozawa, who's now the 24/7 champion. The Ninja hit Tozawa with a briefcase and pinned him, and that's Drew Gulak. Truth hits Gulak with the briefcase and wins the title back. Everybody runs off. Do you really need to put this on TV every week? Do you really need to have a championship that says wrestling is goofy every week? This is almost the top of the second hour. They wasted an hour with this drivel. It's just, are you kidding me? Anyway, Seth Rollins approaches Murphy, gives him a hug. Murphy is not the least bit impressed with this. Rollins says it's a great night. Wondered why Murphy's dressed to compete even though he's not scheduled to. Rollins encourages him to put on the suit that he bought for him. Murphy nods, leaves, and he leaves his cell phone behind. Rollins steals the cell phone. So, theft of another person's personal property on international TV, and nobody has a problem with this. Okie dokie then. We begin the second hour with a King's Court with Jerry Lawler. Lawler is good in this. Everybody else kind of tries, but it kind of falls flat. Anyway, Lawler introduces the Mysterio family. Ray says that Rollins can't keep his own house together, so he's going after his. He calls Rollins evil, and I believe he called him a sinner somewhere in here. A little bit too much religious subcontext for me. Anyway, Dominic says that he's tired of Rollins and he'd put him away next time we saw him. Lawler tries to play devil's advocate. Says Rollins could be lying about the fraternity test since we didn't see paperwork. He turns to the fact of Ray calling Aaliyah naive. Aaliyah admitted to being upset, acknowledged how young she was, and doesn't know what to think of Murphy. But she does question those who associate with Rollins. Rollins comes out, or appears on the screen actually, and says Aaliyah isn't being honest. He then shows text between Aaliyah and Murphy where she wishes him a happy birthday. So somehow being pleasant and kind makes Aaliyah partial heel. Anyway, Ray's upset. Aaliyah and Murphy are somehow connected. Aaliyah storms off. She says he's not like Seth. So obviously they're going with a romance storyline here somewhere. Murphy confronts Rollins, grabs him. Dominic flies in, attacks Murphy. This is broken up. So it's the second fight in the show that needs to be broken up. Dominic and Murphy's going to happen later. Natalya and Lana enter. Lana wears black and pink gear, so she's not even worthy of her own gear anymore since her husband went to AEW, I guess. Anyway, Natalya thought Jackson Baszler should be stripped of the tag belts, as if anyone cares about the women's tag belts now that Sasha and Bayley don't have them. And Lana says it's because of them that these titles even existed. Please explain your logic. She said they deserved it because they're celebrities as opposed to other people who aren't. Anyway, Adam Pearce interrupts, says they cannot strip them of the belts. They could earn a shot to fight for the belts if they could win their match tonight. And the match is going to be with Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, who are new to Raw. Wait a second. New to Raw, although we have a draft coming up in a couple of weeks on October, 9th and 12th? Something like that. And so we are already drafting people? This is dumb. Anyway, Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke defeat Natalya and Lana in just over 3 minutes. Heels in control early. Rose makes a hot tag. How can you have a hot tag in 3 minutes? I don't know. Anyway, tries to go for a gut-wrench slam, and Lana almost lands on her head, which would have been bad. Rose follows up with a running knee for the pin. This is horrible. There was no real leadership in the match, and it was just not good. Aleister Black, remember him? He's back. Anyway, he cuts a promo in a dark room. He says that Kevin Owens has a history of betraying people, and I think they're referring to the Jericho storyline from a couple of years ago, but I don't really know, because I can't think of who else he has. Well, actually, wait. If you go far back enough, he betrayed Sami Zayn, so I guess he does have a history. It took me a moment to think of it, and I think the average fan doesn't pay attention that closely, so they'd even have more of trouble. Anyway, Owens likes to speak about family, but family made Black think about cruelty, so that's uncomfortable. He says his father was a cruel man, even more uncomfortable. He said people might forgive and forget Owens for the things he's done, but he will not forget. Street Profits approach Christian and the rest of the legends, and they drink with them. These guys are still playing poker. Kevin Owens and Aleister Black with the longest match of the night. Kevin Owens has new music. And then Black's in control. Owens mounts a comeback with some clotheslines and a senton. They call Owens 266 pounds. Wonder if that's legit. I actually do wonder what he legit weighs. Anyway, Owen hits a senton off the apron, leads to a commercial break. Owens uses the DDT for a near fall, but Black follows, kicking him in the leg, and cuts him off for a comeback with a couple of strikes. Owens dodged a pump kick and hits a super kick for near fall. Owens tries a senton again, this time off the top. Black gets his knees up. Black follows up with a knee strike for a near fall of his own. Black argues with the referee before turning his attention back to his opponent, and he's in the middle of a series of strikes when Owens hits the referee by mistake. Referee calls for the DQ and blames Black for it. And then Saxton tries to claim the ref made the only call he could. However, the ref must be incompetent not to know the difference between the hands of Black and Owens. Anyway, Hurt Business walks through the back, and they run into Mustafa Ali. He apologizes and claims he got lost. MVP said he must have lost his mind and shoved him. And Ali's about to go after them, but he's held back by Apollo Crews and Ricochet, who happen to be nearby. They are eventually going to fight. Anyway, more of R-Truth, which makes me sad. This is a triple threat with R-Truth defeating Drew Gulak and Akira Tozawa for the 24/7 championship in just over 4 minutes. They let Truth use Cena's old finish, the Attitude Adjustment, on Tozawa. This match was a complete throwaway. Charlie Caruso interviews the team of Rose and Brooks. Rose says it's a no-brainer to have Brooks as a partner because she's a great athlete who's always there for her. and they basically put each other over. Brooks says that Rose is an inspiration for always getting up after getting knocked down. And they both say that they know that Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan are the next in line for the women's tag belts, but they want to be next after them. And then we move into the third hour. Good gosh. Murphy defeats Dominic Mysterio in about seven and a quarter minutes. Back and forth. Dominic nails Murphy with a forearm, and Murphy comes back with a running knee, and then there's a tornado DDT by Dominic, and Dominic is aggressive, stomping away in the corner until the ref stops him. Dominic grabs a kendo stick. Aaliyah runs out from the back and says she doesn't want this to happen. Dominic tells her to leave, and Murphy rolls him up, holding the tights for the pinfall, and Dominic hit Murphy a few times with the kendo stick, but he gets away. Aaliyah again begs Dominic to stop, and Dominic yells at her, saying he was doing all this to protect the legacy of the Mysterio name, and reminded her what Murphy's done to the family. Dominic calls her naive. She slaps him and runs away. Dolph Ziggler tells Adam Pearce in the back that he's the perfect guy. He has the perfect guy for the open challenge of Drew McIntyre. Pearce told him he wasn't eligible, and Pearce agrees to discuss this in his office. Hurt Business cuts a promo, and we see more of the same. Cruz, MVP says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Factual. Cruz keeps getting stopped by Lashley and losing. MVP and Lashley said Cruz and his buddies were going to get dropped again tonight. Six-man tag match that doesn't need to happen because we've seen it too many times. Cruz, Ricochet, and Mustafa Ali defeat Bobby Lashley, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin. Cedric Alexander, nowhere to be found. Perhaps he's one of the people affected by the COVID outbreak. Babyfaces go nuts before the match starts. Hurt Business beat them up anyway. Retribution appears on the screen. Hurt Business slide in the ring, and match is underway. Ali wins, defeating MVP with a 450 splash. The Legends are in the back. They're still playing poker after almost 2 hours. Wow, that's one heck of a game. I wonder what's on the line. Flair wins the final hand and wins all the chips. Good, maybe he can pay his taxes now. Anyway, there's a new Bianca Belair video package. She beats 2 men and a woman in a race on a track. She beats the other 2 a second time, and after giving them a head start in a hurdle race. Retribution video package, and then we go to our main event, 12.5 minutes. Drew McIntyre defeats the returning Robert Roode to retain the championship. Ziggler introduces Roode. Roode has his glorious theme returning. McIntyre gives Roode a reverse into an Alabama slam into the ring apron. Ouch. And then they go to a commercial break. Ziggler helps Roode get out of harm's way. McIntyre goes after Ziggler for this transgression. Roode chop blocks McIntyre, takes over. Roode follows by sending the leg of the champion into the ring post. Roode drops him leg first into the announce table and applies a figure 4. And then McIntyre comes back with an overhead belly-to-belly suplex series, and he is limping after a nip-up. Rude hits a spine buster for a near fall. McIntyre comes back with a Future Shock DDT for near fall of his own. McIntyre sends Ziggler flying off the apron with a big boot. Rude gets the glorious DDT for a near fall. McIntyre blocks another DDT for an attempt to hit the Claymore kick. McIntyre retains. Really good match. Comeback for Bobby Roode. I hope they do something with him. I have no faith that they will, but I can hope it, can't I? Anyway, a building cleaner grabs a steel chair and unmasks. It's Randy Orton. Orton goes in, puts night vision goggles on, enters a room where Flair and the rest of the legends are. He turns the lights off, and he attacks them with some sort of weapon. Orton turns the light back on to reveal the damage done. Legends are all down, and Orton leaves the room, puts the mask and hood back on. Officials run in to the Legends room. Why do Legends get their own room? Why does it say Legends on it? Anyway, Orton has his back turned. And that's how they close the show. This is just goofy. Like, is this supposed to make Drew McIntyre angry enough to give him another championship shot? If so, McIntyre is dumber than a box of rocks. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this review. Much easier to listen to me for 20 minutes than it is to watch 3 hours of this dreadful show. Anyway, we'll be back with more world-class stuff, hopefully overnight, and not to mention tomorrow, Impact, AEW Dark, and the UWN stuff. So a busy night on Tuesdays. Keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.